Do you remember seeing that this experiment where they're putting sound into water and making it resonate until a light will come, like a bubble will implode, creating light? I think that's the same thing happening with the bells and our bodies, actually. I just got that picture.
Yeah, it creates light in us. The
Yeah.
sound creates light. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, let's start with introductions.
Yes.
So we have Cambell Purvis from Autodidactic that we are a huge fan of and have been for quite a while, and he is one of the experts on antiquitech and structures
and hidden history.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Yeah, and we've been diving into so many areas over the last couple of years, and that's definitely one of them. And but Cambell has been there before most other people, so he has a big expertise on that area. And then we have Eileen Mckusick of biofield tuning, and we're fanboying here. Yeah. Because like I work with the body and bioelectricity and how the field creates the body and resistance, what that means, and how emotions tie in with different blockages in the body. And I'm working like I can feel everything in the body, but like going into the energy field around the body, I've never done that. So when we came across Eileen, it's just like a whole different field that is opening up. So all of the things that we are discovering now that are actually really old stuff is coming to the surface, and it seems like it's all tying together really quickly. Like we had a roundtable with Vida Austin and Carrie Bennett that came into like with the water in the body and how our bodies receive sun and the electrons from the ground and all this healing stuff. But also we have the frequencies, and then we have the antiquitech from the old buildings, like how they were made to enhance our health. And now we have all these square buildings that are doing the exact opposite, and the electricity that does the exact opposite, the Wi-Fi that does the exact opposite, everything.
And then I thought, oh, I would love to get Eileen and Cambell in the same room. That would be awesome. And then I discovered you had already done that. It's like, but we want to do it again. And I was so excited because in your talk, you got around a lot of subjects, but in the end you said, maybe we should do one with free energy, like talk with the free energy guys and see where that goes. And I was like, yes, so we can do it. Let's do that. Let's combine this with the hidden history and the sound healing. Cool. Did they know anything about that? So I'm so exciting. This time we are all going through is like revealing all this stuff. We need to figure out who we are, where we are, when we are, right? We don't know. Let's figure it out. So you two guys are really two big pieces of the puzzle. So let's fit that together today.
Yes, thanks for having us. Yeah, do you want me to say? Yeah, I'll just start. So yeah, I obviously look at the old world and what we're sort of calling Tartaria and all that, and the old buildings in the antiquitech. And of course, all these old buildings have, big domes that are covered in, copper and gold and silver, and they have big, spires going up into the air. And we know there's free energy, and now we're sort of getting into electroculture, where literally you just need to stick a piece of copper in the ground and it's an antenna for the earth. And I think what we're learning is that's what we are. We're antennas. We need to be grounded, right? So even down to wearing shoes with rubber soles, this is all part of the disconnection. And so, it's all coming out, so quickly at the moment. We've sort of had all these different pieces kind of floating around, but who's sort of, in this kind of field of research, it's all starting to integrate, and we're all going, oh yeah, that fits in, that fits in, that fits in. And it's all really, like you said, really quickly, it's starting to sort of really tung. And it's like I've said all along, we've already got all the answers. We just need to start implementing them. So yeah, it's great. I think we're going to get back to earth energy, bioenergy, healing through frequency and understanding that's basically what we are, right? We're frequency and energy.
Yeah. And for so long, we've been taught that the body was stupid and dumb, and it just made us sick, and it was really vulnerable, and just a transportation for our brains to move around, right? Everything is in the brain. You need to have a big brain, and you need to learn stuff from books. But our daughter, she's born with microcephaly, which means that her brain is very underdeveloped, and she actually lacks a lot of pieces of the brain. And when she was born, the doctor were like, she's never gonna get to crawl or walk or anything.
Never go to school, never be able to learn languages, maybe not even able to speak.
No, and now she's 10 and she's running around. She's really fast, and we've been traveling around Europe for 19 months now, and she knows what they eat in the different countries, and she can say hello and thank you and goodbye in the different languages, and make pancakes by herself and tea, and she can do all kinds of stuff. And it just, for the doctors, they had to throw in the towel and say, well, let's call her a miracle, because we cannot explain this.
They don't understand anything, or comprehend anything.
So when we look at Eileen's work now, that she has mapped the entire biofield, that our memories and traumas and everything is stored outside the body, it makes perfectly sense, because our daughter has no use for the brain in that sense. She has a big as cloud as everyone else.
And her memory is much better than either of ours. But she can remember stuff so clearly, and it's so Eileen, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to your discoveries. And
Sure. Well, I guess I'm the tuning fork lady.
Tuning fork lady.
27 years ago, I picked up a set of tuning forks and started using them in a part-time massage therapy practice, and really was astonished by them. I thought that they would be a particular way, and they turned out to not be that way at all. They revealed to me so many things that I didn't understand, that were fascinating, that were curious, that were surprising. And, I'm the kind of person that gets bored really easily. I'm always kind of moving on to the next topic. I've got lots of tabs open, lots of books going. I just have a kind of a short attention span and a very curious mind. And I'm still using tuning forks because they still amaze me and still surprise me. And it kind of turned into a whole thing that I didn't expect. I ended up creating a sound therapy method called biofield tuning. I started that. It started to evolve in 1996. And by 2010, I had a fully developed method. I had mapped the biofield, and I started teaching my first students. And now, 13 years later, we've trained thousands of people all over the world in this method. And I have a master's thesis called Exploring the Effects of Audible Sound on the Human Body and its Biofield, and 2 other books on the subject. And it's really interesting because as all of this started to come together, I realized that I had a piece of the puzzle. That the puzzle that we're talking about, and how Cambell's saying, all these people are kind of finding these parts of the puzzle, and we're all putting them together. And this picture is emerging that we're so much more than we've been told that we are. We're so much more. What it means to be human is so different than what we've been told. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from the tuning forks, is that in listening deeply to the body, basically what I do is I just bounce sound off the body and the atmosphere around the body like sonar. And I listen to the ping back. And in that ping back, there's just so much information, because we are vibrational, we are electrical, and everything that we have ever experienced is recorded in our electrical system, right? That's what you're saying earlier. Our memories are actually in this sort of personal cloud storage system that surrounds us. And that also informs the Akasha, the ether, the record of everything. So our memories aren't just our own memories, but they're the memories of life itself in its entirety, which is kind of interesting. And if we exist out here, where do we stop?
Exactly.
And so it really more than anything, I was shown the brilliance of the human body, just the brilliance, and really that every single person I worked on, when I got the noise and resistance out of the electrical signal through sound, I discovered that their true tone, their harmonious being underneath, was great, amazing, brilliant, genius, creative, everybody. And we've been diminished, by the architecture, by the education, by all of the noise and nonsense that's been fed to us, so that we don't believe in our own beauty. Even just flat earth versus round earth, like flat earth kind of like, hey guys, you're special and this is a special place. And whereas our whole cosmological story at the moment is dark and depressing and separate and diminished. And so people have ended up all separate and small and full of self-loathing. Whereas if we woke up to the truth of who we were, we would be incredibly powerful, and I would say even beautiful and amazing together. And I really do think that's where those of us who are on this path are kind of determined to get to. I think we're all kind of converging into something that is this awakening of our true nature.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, I think that's the world we live in, right? Is we're told it's all physical and it's made up by physical bits, and we can get down to the medical, can I say that? The medical people, and the same thing, right? It's all bits. It's this bit's broken, so we'll cut it out, or we'll cut it off, or we'll do this to it. But what we're understanding is that's a complete lie. We're whole. We need to, when we're with healing, you need to heal the whole, right? That the energy, like the blueprint, which is what we're starting to understand, is to heal properly. You need to go back to the blueprint, right? And you need to stop any causes. Because as we know, modern medicine, but they just treat symptoms, right? They don't treat causes. So we're starting to realize, hang on, that's, look around, right? We're the most advanced people ever. We've got all this technology and everyone's sicker and fatter and more tired and more depressed than ever. And it's because we've been led down the garden path. But and the other thing is it costs, and how much does that cost? It costs, if you need an operation these days, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. You can go and get, some tuning forks or some copper or, some crystals or, all these different things. And they have proper measurable effects. And the thing is, they don't cause any harm as they're healing. Most of this stuff, from that they use to heal us, it does harm at the same time.
Yeah. And, I think it's so sad because I think doctors go into the profession really wanting to help. Doctors and nurses and good people get sucked into a bad system and become very brainwashed and don't even realize. There's a very big denial that there's even electricity present in the body. Although I have to show you this new book that I'm reading.
Yes, please.
It's called We Are Electric, and it's written by a science journalist named Sally Addy. And basically what she's doing is illustrating the fact that there is electricity in the body, telling the history about it. I'm only in the beginning of it. But I'm pretty sure I'm not going to find anything in here about magnetic fields. And right, so even if we're getting into electricity in the body, anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And magnetic fields guide and inform electric currents. So it's really primary, And also, when we contemplate electricity and magnetism, we often will see electricity as masculine and more related to our thoughts, and magnetism as feminine and more related to our feelings. And as typical in academia, it's very like male thought oriented, and there's kind of a denial of the feminine. I've been to lots of different conferences over the years, and the only places where I really experienced a sort of subtle sexism were at these consciousness conferences where they were all focused on the brain. Right? They're all like so brain centric and just completely missing the feminine part and subtly dismissing women at the same time. And I look at this book and it seems to me like it's just a primer for the medical establishment, now that we're accepting that electricity is in the body, to start creating devices and going to the brain and electrocuting things and making it all about the masculine, the electric, and the device and what they can sell you, instead of going into this more holistic, integrative, balanced kind of place. I'm happy it's a start, because I encounter people who are like, there's no electricity in the body. Like,
but if we're talking about like electricity in the body, like we also have to acknowledge that, like, and magnetism, that this is not the strongest magnet. Like the biggest electromagnetic field is in the heart. And there's no, like, as you said, there's no limit to magnetism. Like it gets, the field gets weaker the further you go from the body, but there's no end to a magnetic field. Talking about one of my favorite books, now I can't remember, but it was written by a guy who's both a acupuncture doctor and then he worked in an ER. And he talked about they had made these experiments on
healing is voltage.
Healing is voltage. It's an old book by now, but like they had taken these mice that were prone to cancers. Yeah,
he's got it.
Fantastic book. So they've taken these mice that were prone to cancers, and then they had measured that before they got the cancer tumors, there was a change in the bioelectricity of the mice, and then they had taken those patterns and induced them on healthy mice that were not prone to cancers, and then those same mice got cancers. So that is where we're going with all these healing technologies, and like you said, it, Cambell, it's much more simple. Like we don't need all these expensive tools. Like we can get a tuning fork, or we can stick a piece of copper on the ground, or we can make orgonites or whatever to align these fields. But what are these fields, and how do we discover them, and how do we use them? Like that, there's still some way to go to get all this knowledge back, but it's all clicking into place.
Yeah, we're getting there. But this is a thing again, like Eileen was saying, with the sort of left brain is, that they don't even acknowledge the ether, right? So there's no way that any of their science can work. That they literally leave out this massive part. And then, like Eileen said, they don't believe in fields, right? Magnetic fields and things, when fields are really all we've got. That's all there is magnetic fields basically, and electromagnetic fields. And so this is why all this stuff that we've been pushed on us doesn't work. I mean, I was thinking the other day, we think that we're so advanced, but we're still fighting over what to eat. We don't know what to eat. I mean, come on, we're not that advanced, It's crazy when you think about it, right? Like it's crazy.
No, just fruit.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And you can literally open a magazine and it'll say, eat eggs. They're great for you. Lots of protein. You turn the page and it says eggs will give you a heart attack. Don't touch them. And so there's all this information, and it's the white noise, right? It's in the brain that keeps us focused on stuff that doesn't matter to us. All this, outside, external, physical kind of world, when really, because the world's really inside us. So everything has to come from inside us anyway. So this is where we're getting back to, is we're realizing everything is one. That they spent all their time saying, no, it's all bits, it's all bits, it's all bits. It's all made up of molecules and little balls and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's not. It's all one. It's all one. Fields interacting.
Yeah, it's all ether.
The whole balance of the masculine and the feminine, and like when you were taking this, like only eat eggs or don't eat eggs, it's only the head. It's like we're trying to figure out, like, this is the perfect food, but there is no perfect food. It's like, what are your needs right now? So coming back to that intuition and like sensing, it's like and there's a lot of vegans now that or ex-vegans that like they've been trying to go down that path for so long, and suddenly it's like, my body needs a steak, and then they'll eat a steak, and then they get healthy again. And so coming back to that, and the other way around.
It's what you need.
Sorry, Eileen.
Yeah, well, that is, we've been very taught to not trust our own senses. Right? My friend Tom Cowan, who is an advocate of the flat Earth, I was like, Tom, why does it matter? You know, why does this cosmology matter? And he said, because one of the primary things is like, as humans, we look around and it looks flat and stationary. Like that's what our senses are telling us, that this environment that we found ourselves in curiously appears to be flat and stationary, appears that everything's going around it. And yet we're told that our senses may tell us that, but we can't trust that because we're actually spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour and we're doing this. But your senses can't. So this sort of very fundamental disconnect with something as simple as the nature of the reality that we're in leads people to not trust their own senses. And this is something that I come up against in my work over and over and over again. Early on, when I started teaching people biofield tuning, the process is one of activating a tuning fork and coming in and finding the outer boundary of the field. So there's a double layer plasma membrane that defines the toroidal structure of our own personal bubble, if you will. And so it has additional charge. It's got a little more charge there than the sort of ambient space in between our body and the edge of the field. And you can find it with a tuning fork. You can feel it. You can feel that additional resistance and the sort of slight change in tone. It's subtle, but it's absolutely perceptible. And when I was first teaching people, they'd be coming along and they'd hit it and they'd pause and then they would keep going. And I would be like, what just happened right there? And they were like, well, I thought I hit something, but I wasn't sure. Right? I was like, you're not trusting yourself. So this whole not trusting our own senses sets us up to listen to authorities. So we don't trust our own inner healer. We don't trust our own inner teacher. We don't trust our own inner bullshit meter because we've been so trained to like look outside of ourselves for the answers. And the answers that they give us are bunk. They're confusing. They're wrong. They're deliberately right upside down and backwards. And that seems to be the name of the game. It's like whatever they tell you, do the opposite and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
So I think
everything, sorry.
Coming back to our own senses, trusting ourselves, trusting our senses is the path to sovereignty, right? And freedom is not listening to authority. And food is a great place to start. You know, the whole process of intuitive eating, food is what brought me into the healing arts myself, because I became completely corrupted by outside influences that disconnected me from knowing what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, right? I just wasn't even connected to my body. And I was always so puzzled. I was like, how do animals go out in nature and know what to eat and what not to eat? Right? It seemed like such a strange thing. But now that I have conditioned myself to intuitive eating, I know in the grocery store, I can just kind of feel what I want and need. Like my animal instinct of what I need to do to take care of my own organism has been turned back on. And most people's is off, right? And I think the path to health is getting your own humanness re-engaged and not listening to authorities about anything, really.
Totally. I mean, remember, you know, you used to walk into a fruit shop and you used to smell it.
Yeah.
You used to be, I can smell all the fruit. It doesn't exist anymore, right? They've taken away all these. And it's like, it's an interesting word that you said, Eileen, you know, it's sense, right? We don't sense the world moving. We don't sense the smell. It makes no sense. This is what it is, right? They want us to live in nonsense, no sense.
Yeah.
And this is why, you know, all the experts, they can't explain something to you in a sentence, right? They need their 14, you know, equations in their books and you better listen to me. It was blah, blah, blah. The truth is simple. If someone needs to explain stuff to you and take you down a path for you to believe it, it's not the truth. The truth is simple. And like Eileen said, we will know it when we hear it. We just got to trust ourselves.
In the US, they have just made a new food pyramid with the Fruit Loops.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should eat the Fruit Loops. Okay. Look at me. It's insane. Yeah.
But I mean, it's the apocalypse, right? The great unveiling.
Yeah.
This is all, we can look at this either way, right? We can look at this as outside, oh my God, the physical world, it's so bad. Look what they're doing to us. They're taking away this from us. They're doing this to us. Or we can go inside and go, wow, they're showing us what's going on. Like that, they're presenting it to it. Like apocalypse means unveiling. Everything is being unveiled. We're seeing everything is based on nothing. All these people running these, politicians and running all these companies that got no ethics at all.
Yeah.
Like they're not the people that we would even want to talk to, let alone let them tell us what to do. And so this is the thing, I see this as a good thing.
Yeah.
It's probably not so good if you bought it, but it's waking so many people up, and the world's never going to be the same again, right? We're never going back to 2019. So it's great, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because all we've got now is potential.
I got a very strong message yesterday because I've been looking at all now. There was like a drag show for kids in Copenhagen, and there's this, and everybody's like, oh, it's fighting it, and it's like, but we are enough now that it's not necessary to fight this anymore. Like right now, we have to come together like we're doing now and build up the structures, and not systems, but the structures that are going to create this beautiful world. Like we're fitting this other puzzle over here, and then let them have their puzzle, because it looks batshit insane right now. Like and it's just getting worse all the time. And people will wake up when they wake up. We can't beat them until they wake up now. So we're going to have to build this other world, this other model for them to come to. They see, and when they see what it is. So let's love
totally.
It. Yeah.
Free. The thing about freedom is you've got to let everyone else be free.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that freedom is running around telling people what to do. Look, if people need to go through that and need to live in a 15-minute city to wake up, well, that's what they got to do. Or like you said, all we need to do is go out and build what we want to build, make sure our kids aren't involved in any of that stuff.
Exactly.
And we just build something better. And then when they're ready and they're awakened, they'll start hopefully walking, the path towards, what we think is a better way to live, right? But yeah, we don't have the right to tell anyone to how to live, just like no one has the right to tell us how to live.
Well, that's true. That's true. And like we all mentioned, that it's going really fast right now, and we can look at all the 5G towers and everything is really bad, but hvad fanden hvad hedder det?
Telepathy?
Yes!
I got it. I heard you say it.
It's coming back too now, isn't it? And I just had a client, a one-on-one session, and a wonderful woman sitting in Belgium, and currently I'm in the south of France, and we were just doing this Zoom thing, and I could feel her. That's the thing, I can, and now it's called an empath. You're an empath, and apparently 25% of the world's population can do this. So for me, it's just natural. I've always done it, but I could feel her in me. So I could feel all her emotions and where she was stuck physically too. So I was just telling her all this and mirroring back, and she said, it's wonderful. It's like you know me better than I know myself, because I could just mirror back her blind spots. Like we need someone to scratch our backs because we cannot see what is itching, right? So I have to ask for help. So that was what I was doing, but I just think it's so weird, wonderfully weird, that I can feel this woman sitting thousands of kilometers away, and that must be the biofield. I can tune in somehow on her.
Yeah, because it's all one. You're right, because you don't end here. Your magnetic field mingles with hers, and so you can feel resonance in your own body when you put attention on her. the magnetic field that she is, that we're all part of, the ether, resonates in you. You know, that's the way that I work. I strike a tuning fork and I listen to someone and I feel all those things in my own body. It's a really useful system for helping people when you can feel their pain and reflect that back to them.
You do that at distance too. Like you didn't used to, but like you talked about, you had a client that asked you to do it at a distance, and then you thought it was a bit whack, and then it turned out it worked just as well.
Yeah. Well, for years, people asked me if I could do this at a distance, and I was very arrogant, very skeptical, very dismissive. You know how people are programmed to be. and I thought it was nonsense. I was like, this is sound waves on the body. Like, this is physics. Like, how on earth would I do it at a distance? And then actually, a fellow by the name of Dr. Carl Merritt, who is very knowledgeable about this sort of thing, who actually helped me with my master's thesis, he encouraged me to give it a try, right? So I'm a scientist, a citizen scientist, a natural philosopher, and I love experiments. And so I was like, okay, I'll do this experiment with you, but I don't think it's going to work. And at this point, I had kind of gotten the ability for someone to come into my office and for me to go through their field, sort of like listening to the album of their life, that there's a whole vibrational language that our memories are stored in, that our whole experience is actually vibrations and waves and patterns of things. And we put words on these waves traveling through us, but really the fundamental language, really that all of nature speaks, that animals and plants speak the same vibrational language that music seeks to approximate and express. And it was sort of like a sonic braille that I taught myself, where I learned that specific sounds meant specific things. Like, this is a head injury, this is a breakup, this is a move, this is a car accident, this is inflammation in that joint, this is arthritis in that joint. Like, every single thing has its own frequency signature. And so I had the ability to go through somebody's field and really just tell them all about themselves. So on this particular day, he lay down in his treatment table in his office in California, and I approached my empty treatment table in Vermont, pretending that he was there. Now, I was invested in being right, that it was impossible, okay? And so I didn't go in hoping to find, I just went in very neutrally, because this is what we do in biofield tuning. We just go in and we listen. We don't come in with any intentions or presuppositions or working with your condition or whatever it is. We just come in and we listen to the stories that the field wants to tell us. And simply by listening and holding space and being present, but with a coherent signal in the mix, the body just relaxes and fixes itself. It's so amazing that our bodies are self-tuning instruments. You just have to stick a fork in them and they relax.
It's done. Stick a fork in it, it's done.
Yeah. So I approached the table and I started to comb into where his field would be. And much to my amazement, all of the information that I would find when there was a body there appeared. And I took notes and I just went through his whole field and I made all of these observations. There's one point in biofield tuning, sometimes when we get stuck in the field and something won't release or let go, we take weighted forks and we go to the body and we just help release that tension in the body. Any place there's tension in the field, there's tension in the body, sort of like an exploded view. And so I was like, so I got to that juncture where I was stuck and wouldn't move. And I'm like, go to the body. I'm like, but there's no body there. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, there's no body here. So I just took my weighted forks and I brought them over the table and I kind of held them in space over where the body would be, feeling really ridiculous. And then I came back to the field, and just like as if there was a body there, it was easier to move, which completely blew my mind. And we didn't have any open line of communication. So we were just doing this by intention. I wasn't on the phone, I wasn't on Zoom. And so when I finished, I called him and I went through my notes and I was like, you know, you had this injury at this age, your mom has this personality, you have inflammation here, your spleen pancreas isn't working quite right, like all the things, right? And he was like, Eileen, that's all exactly correct. And I felt a state change when you were working. I feel lighter, and I took my blood sugar and it changed for the better. And I was like, get out of town. Like, now I got to eat the serious crow. I tell people that it actually is possible, right? But how is it possible? That's the sort of big question, and why distance healing has always been negated. And the reason why it's been negated is because of what Cambell said earlier, the removal of the ether from our cosmology. Because the ether, you know, they talk about quantum entanglement and quantum. I don't use the word quantum. I find it completely useless. But it's resonance in the ether. That's what it is. And it's a very simple, elegant explanation that it's all one thing. And I stub my toe, my brain knows it, like, because it's all one thing. So, and I think that this is very intentional, right? Because the connective mediums of ether and plasma that are light, that are connected, have been removed from our cosmological story. I mean, I grew up, I only learned about solid, liquid, and gases because I was indoctrinated into this materialist reality. And they hid the light, basically. So when I discovered plasma and ether, I'm like, I found the light I was looking for. It's a state of matter.
Because there are no things, there are only like more and more dense fields. So it's all fields.
Yeah. Unlike.
Yeah, more condensed. Yeah.
So Cambell, let's connect this to cathedrals and architecture and bells, organs.
All that stuff. I was just thinking something that's coming popular at the moment is these sound baths, where people are going and they're literally just, you know, they're getting their bells and their bowls and their tuning forks and having these sound baths, right? Frequency baths. That's what a cathedral would have been. You know, we had organs in them, good for your organs, probably. Frequency. We have the choirs in there singing. You know, we have obviously the spires. We have the cymatic windows, the stained glass windows, which also could be. That could be some form of like light therapy, like changing the light frequency as well through the stained glass that we haven't looked into.
You think there were also stained glass back then?
I think some of them were, yeah. I think some were, and some, because what we seem to have, the doorways seem to be the speakers, and they're actually called, the doorways on cathedrals are called archivolts. And another thing, right, all cathedrals have vaulted ceilings, right? And they go, oh, no, you spell it V-A-U. It's a vault, right? Vaulted ceiling, right? So it's all in the language. So they tell us all this. I think that, some of the stained glass, probably that the taller window ones were stained glass, but the round ones were probably acting more like sort of cymatic resonators or some kind. But it looks like that these were basically putting out frequency. To a certain area. We know that bells in mythology were rung to keep trolls away. Yeah. Like literally, it says that to keep the trolls away, right? You ring the bells. And then, of course, in World War II, what did they do? They took all the bells away. And now they tell us they can't make them again because they don't know how to make the brass that they were made out of. And the story is they melted them all down to make weapons. You can't make weapons out of brass, right? So it's this big, stupid story that they've definitely dismantled everything. And the other thing that is connected right into all this, and of course all the star forts and everything, is water. You know, water, right? What do we call, or what do we say water has when it's moving? It has a current, right? Just like electricity, right? It's flowing. So this is all part of it. And of course you can then tie in holy water, baptism, all this stuff. So it's this, because then you get into Dr. Emoto's work, right? And the ice crystals and the intention. And so it's all this stuff is connected. It's all connected. So basically what we see is that the civilization that was based on what we're trying to build now, right? It was based on how do we make a better life and a better experience for everyone? How do we make everyone healthy? How do we make the food better? How do we make the water better? You know, all the water was getting fractalized, I guess I call it, but it was all getting clean, right? And it was all getting tuned to a high frequency, and we're 70% water, right? Dr. Emoto shows us, you know, if we've got bad thoughts, we get this goopy stuff, and just with intention, you can change that to stars, right? And crystals and all these shapes. So if we're drinking water that's already tainted, that's going to bring, it's going to lower us, right? If we're drinking water that's full of, frequency and fractals and all this geometry, then it's just going to make us healthy. It's going to feed our energy system. So that's pretty much what's happened. Everything that was good, that was for us, has been dismantled and taken away. They've poisoned the water, they've poisoned the air, they've poisoned the education, like everything. So that's why we needed this, right? What we're going through now, we needed it. We needed to wake up, and thankfully many people are. And so that's where we're going. It's like you said before, we don't have to worry about this other world. Let's just go forward and build a new world. And then when all these people in the cities wake up, they'll have somewhere to go, right?
I hope we're getting the beautiful cities back.
The thing is with the water and all these things, like they're putting so much work and energy into polluting and destroying all these things, but it's really simple to make water good for you again. Like we had here, and we froze some water straight from the tap, and it was disjointed and chaotic, and just putting our intention into it and then freezing it, it became these beautiful fern-like structures again.
Yeah, now we filter the tap water and then we put it in a big
jar and stir it.
Yeah, stir it a little bit and then put lemon juice in it
and salt.
Yeah, and it freezes in this beautiful flower patterns.
So they can't
Oh,
keep.
nice. Yeah, well, that's what they used to do in Hindu and Sikh religions. They used to put their water in copper bowls and pray to it before they drank it.
Yeah.
This on the screen, this is called a monstrance. And
what?
See, it's called a monstrance. And it's basically, it's a cathedral, right? So I think these were handheld, this is another one, versions of these, right?
Yeah.
Of these cathedrals with all the spires everywhere. So they look like handheld, like smaller versions, right? That looks like a cathedral top, right? We've got the window in here and everything.
And there's a Merkaba in the middle.
In the middle here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Got that. We've got the antennas where it's covered in gold, obviously the metal. In these middle bits, some of these have red stuff, like it looks like it might have had red mercury or something in them. And mercury is another part of this. Look at this. This is, you can see this horse and cart. This is a fountain. This is a fountain. Like, look at the size difference. This is like 1870, like late 1870s. But look at this. They've all got spires, right? We know as you go up in the ether, every meter is 100 volts. So the higher you go up, the more energy there is. So this is why they're so high and tall with big spires on them. Look at the architecture. And of course, then there's geometry gives off biofields, right? This is a fountain, bells. So we've got all these pictures that, here's another bell. These were, part of, what we would call ceremony, or they love to call everything religion, but they were probably just getting healed. Here's another bell. And this is, the basis of all this stuff. Look at this. This looks like a machine, right? It's a bell with a capacitor on the top of it.
Do you have any idea why they would have the bells on the ground like that? Because normally that would make a bell not be able to ring.
Depends what it's sitting on, I guess. And these look a lot like these things called stupas, which are buildings that look like this. Yeah. And it's probably to do with, setting the resonance down somewhere. But see this on the top?
Yeah.
And the thing is also with these bells, the old bells, when they rang them, they actually sent the frequency out sideways. They didn't send it down through the bottom. Huh. So that was part of the alloy that they were made of, is they sent it all out horizontally, not down, up and not vertically, which is another thing. So symmetry, we've just got all these, this is all ancient tech, right? Look at this. This is what we see, apart from being the symbol for the sun. It's also what we see on the wristwatches of all these Sumerian people, right?
Yeah. And the handbag.
So we have all these, and the handbag, So we've got all these similar things. That's more of a stupa. And the story of these are small ones. I mean, look what's on the top of it, by the way, a little coil. People used to sit inside them. You know, so they were probably resonance baths, this kind of things, right? There you go, right there. They're showing you there's someone inside one, right? One of their God. I mean, look at this is tech. This is tech. This isn't, you know, like it's clearly tech, right? Bells everywhere, organs, right? Most cathedrals still have their organs. They still have them, but they're in pieces in the basement. They literally they went into all these cathedrals, took these amazing things apart and then just threw them in the basement. So they were taken out for no reason at all.
And so few people can actually play them now. When you're in church, it's like, you hear that all the time. You're just afraid that they will hit the wrong note because it's horrible. Yeah.
Well, music used to be, you know, so much more intricate, right? We used to have like orchestras and 100-piece orchestras. And now we've been reduced to a Pop-Tart with, you know, auto-tune and a synthesizer. And there's nothing left of it.
Frequency change also, like the 430.
Slide. And so there were things like this everywhere, resonators. So, you know, were these free electricity type energy, or were these to sort of harmonize frequency?
The ether, electricity, and then sound, like there must be, they did everything for a reason. So there must be a reason for having both in the same place.
Definitely. Everything. I mean, these, you know, we're told these are wells, and they call them step wells because, you know, lots of these things that they call steps. Why you would make steps like that go into a point, I don't know. But this is for water to run down, so it gets charged, right? This is an energy charging, you know, and we see these steps everywhere. You know, all this stuff. This has probably got Mercury in it. It's just everywhere. All these, and we're just told, oh no, it was just built by people, you know. With I mean, look at that. I mean, you just get this symmetry. It's all to do with geometric symmetry, which also gives off a field, which is also harmonizing. So it's not just the cymatics on the ceiling, right? These are all cymatics. As we can see here, these are exactly like those monstrances we looked at, but they're supersized ones. And then on the outside of this cathedral, there'll be an even bigger one, right? Just fractals of the same tech. I mean, that's the outside of it, right? So this is...
And then compare that to modern buildings where everything is at 90-degree angles, and you see like dust gets accumulated in the corners. But if you have like a square jug of anything, like the water will become acidic and die. It'll lose its oxygen. So all these square things, they're literally killing us. They're blocking our energy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the name for that kind of architecture is brutalism.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell us it's all in the spells, right? It's all in the spelling. That's the first thing they teach us at school. This is an ancient site. I'm pretty sure this is South America, sort of around Tiwanaku, and this is a circuit board.
Yeah.
You know, so it's looking like...
I mean, it's so obvious.
This is a rock in, I think it's Korea or Japan, apart from the fact that looks like a, what are they called, those toys? Transformers. Look at this, right?
It does.
Does that look like some kind of compute? So what we're finding is the whole world was a system, right? This is a church floor. This is an antenna.
Yeah, that's a human resonance generator, that one.
So, and this would be underneath a dome.
Oh, that's
and we can see the fractal roof here, and we've got the organ, right? We've got the stained glass window. I mean, it's, so the whole world was connected up in one system. As we can see here, most people have seen this picture with this wheel. That's a cymatic pattern. That's telling us a frequency. And look what he's holding in his hand. Very similar to an ankh.
Yeah.
Right. So all this stuff is there, and we're just rediscovering it. So it really does look like we had this all sorted. We had it all done, right? But something happened. The pirates came in and we got taken over. But, you know, we had electricity in the 1880s. You know, electric cars, we had it all. This is the Jed pillar.
Yeah.
And the ankh, I mean, that's a capacitor. That's an energy source. You know, so all these things, that we're told, you know, and it just spent like years, haven't they? Oh, what is this? Oh, you know, and when you look at it, you just go, hang on, that's a capacitor. That's what it is. But they'll spend, you know, years and years explaining to us why it's not what we perceive, why it's not what we, you know, sense, as we said before.
Yeah, we're taught that, you know, every kind of technology must be made of metal. So when it's made out of rock, it doesn't work. But we see all the brick buildings with the different layers of red and yellow bricks. Well, turns out they can store electricity. Yep. So we can use rock.
Yeah, and they're experimenting with it now, like as if it's a new invention of storing electricity and red bricks. It's like it's ancient tech.
Yeah. But it's amazing how they could build all the structures of the old world when we
with
look at
horse and buggy.
with house and buggy. and when we from Denmark, and it's a tiny country, yeah, with like thousands of islands, and we were told that one of the great kings we had, King Christian IV, he built all the big structures we have in Denmark and in Norway too, and maybe some other parts of other countries that we owned at that time. And I think it was in the 15 or 1600, right?
I don't recall, but it's
around there. And at that time, we're told that only 1 million people lived in Denmark. And we were spread out on tiny islands.
Oh, and we were at war too. So while we were at war,
in the wide world could we build those amazing, beautiful structures that we see everywhere in Denmark, even on the tiny islands? How could they do that? All that brickwork, all the copper roofs we have everywhere, the spires and the statues.
We couldn't even afford to build one of them now, and at where we're supposed to, like, of course, there's a decline going on right now, but we're supposed to be the richest we've ever been, and now we can't build one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And building forts in war, I mean, what a stupid story. Yeah. What happens? Does everyone go, okay, let's stop fighting, we'll all go build our forts and come back in 10 years when they're done, then we'll start the war? Yeah. You can't build a fort when you're in a war. It's a dumb story.
Yeah, and all just like the beautiful, like the stock exchange in Denmark was built in that period. It's like, are you building a stock exchange in the middle of a war? It's like, why? In the capital of Denmark that is right next to our largest enemy? I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense.
War. No. His story.
Nothing of it makes sense when you dig into it. Like the whole thing, none of it makes sense. Like you really have to be heavily indoctrinated, which we all are, and we are still there. We're just now we are waking up, like Katrine said, like she could tune into that lady and feel her stuck places, but our own stuck stuff, like where we are asleep, where we are heavily indoctrinated, we can't see that right now. Like and so we need somebody like Eileen to come in with her tuning force. Oh, here's something stuck, and then it has to come loose. But we're so traumatized, all of us. We're so asleep, all of us.
So if we could like take the bells back and do like a collective healing, get it back.
I never thought about that. Which
please.
Right. So the bells are brass, but don't they make bullet casings out of brass, Cambell? So they wouldn't make
okay, yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same kind, but yeah.
I mean, they definitely went somewhere, you know, all of the bells. Well, one place where they still are is in the ether. Like the ringing of the bells, the sounds that they made, and the way that they kept the evil spirits and the trolls or whatever away is something that we can actually tune into. So I thought it might be fun to just spend a few minutes with one of my tuning forks, but to do it, to bring us to a place where we can maybe hear those bells in the record of the ether kind of ringing in our own bodies. And I've never done this before, and I don't know if it'll work, but I thought it would be kind of a neat experiment for us to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I first started to, it was December 2018 when I first discovered Tartaria. And I just had my 2 front teeth pulled out, unfortunately, and I had no choice but to lie around, something I don't do very often. And so I spent, a couple weeks just kind of immersing myself in Tartaria videos. And then I got busy again. But over the last year or so, I've become obsessed. And I think this happens to people where I just in fact, I watched your thing last night about the World Fairs, Cambell, that you
okay, yeah.
Every single night, I am always taking in and I couldn't get enough of it. It's I just need to absorb this into my soul somehow, just looking at the architecture, it's making me remember something, right? There's how can I remember what it was like to be human then, because that's also in the etheric record. And unfortunately, the bells went from being a symbol of health, of harmony, to being one of death. They've taken all of these symbols of life, the swastika, right? Or oh, that's evil and death. Or even Isis, the goddess of love and beauty, is now a terrorist organization. And the bells are ask not for whom the bell tolls, because they're death. So everything's been kind of corrupted and turned upside down.
Sure.
But the essence of that vibration, is in the record of the being, in the Akasha, even in the water, right? Because water and ether aren't so different when it comes right down to it. Water is just a denser ether. And so even in the water in our own bodies, there's the potential to access these memories of this greater harmony. So let's just take a moment, and I'm going to use a couple different forks. We'll see maybe what we hear it more in, but I just want you to be curious in listening to the fork. And I got to change my background setting is on medium, so I got to put it on low. And use your imagination. Just state, I want to hear and feel the bells. I want this to be a portal for, and even what in the organs, just the whole vibe of what that architecture and that mindset was to elevate and to harmonize. And now we've gone into the opposite, which is to grade and to signal jam. And so I think it's up to each of us individually, right, to start to awaken to the vibe of that world, of that time, of that potential. And as we start to awaken to it in ourselves individually, then we are better able to co-create that from a state of our own beingness.
Yeah. Let's Cambell and us, let's mute. So all the sound will only Eileen.
Okay.
Great. So I'm just going to do a test strike and you let me know how it sounds. Okay. All right. So I just want everybody who's watching or listening, just close your eyes and just listen deeply. You can put in headphones or not. It doesn't matter. And let's just intend that we're able to tap into that particular chapter in the Akasha and let it inform the water in our own bodies. So just in these first few strikes, I'm just kind of hearing the mud in us that's in the way, and it feels muddy. right? So this is just kind of how the tuning forks work. They'll resonate with whatever's in the way or the distortion or the dissonance, and then they'll start to move towards that harmony. So these are just kind of muddy and heavy, which is kind of where we're at now for as humanity. But let's keep going. Okay, so this has been 144 hertz. I'm going to switch to 528 hertz. Good. Okay. I'm just gonna end that there and come back and open your eyes and you guys share. You're looking pretty bright-eyed there, Cambell. What did you guys notice while we were doing that?
Oops, I was still muted. Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I just sort of tuned into and just sort of saw all the buildings and bells and just, I don't know, just kind of got a nice kind of energy about it. Yeah, I just sort of let it go and it felt good.
Yeah. How about you guys?
I mean, it's strange, like the first tuning fork. I mean, if we go by like the physics of it, it should only like produce that one sound, but the sound obviously changed over time. And I could hear that whole like bell nature of it after like the first ring, like the second, and it became more and more belly. But it was like there's yes, of course. But there was this whole like there was something that was bigger that was than the tuning fork. Like the and I could feel into something like when I like most people when they experience some sort of healing, like tears will come, and they did. But, so thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's because I'm visual.
Anybody out there in YouTube land that wants to chime in?
Yeah.
Chime in.
For me, I felt life back then, and it felt like it was certain times a day that the bells would ring and you would be still. And I grew up close to a small village where they still have a bell in the church. It doesn't ring anymore. But when I grew up when it was ringing in the morning to bring the sun up and then in the evening to come down. So that's when you prepared for something. But I felt like way back then it was also in the middle of the day that you took a break and you sat down and you received that sound and all that healing that coherence balancing sound. And the second tone it felt like my childhood, because that's the sound the TV would make when there was no TV. It would go so it felt really calming for me. So, yeah, childhood.
Nice. Yeah, I could feel it was helpful, Cambell, to see your architecture pictures first, because I could feel that the sort of architecture. I could feel just the spires and the geometry, and I just also became aware about how the water molecules in my body started to ring and resonate, and I think that's the star forts and all of this. The water in people was alive and it was harmonious, and that was their experience of themselves. And we can sonically cleanse the waters of the earth. This whole idea that everything's polluted and it's going to take a long time to clear it up. There are frequencies that can be just put in a lake or a river or in the Gulf of Mexico that will resurrect, that will reoxygenate, that will structure the water. Like cleanup of this mess within and without can all be done very elegantly with sound.
Do you remember seeing that this experiment where they're putting sound into water and making it resonate until a light will come, like a bubble will implode, creating light? I think that's the same thing happening with the bells and our bodies, actually. I just got that picture.
Yeah, it creates light in us. The sound creates light. Yeah.
It's like the
God
water.
said, let there be light. Exactly.
And the fractal for love is a star. And what people keep saying, I'm a star, we're stardust, we're stars. Of course, we're full of stars, right? Or we should be.
Yeah, we should be, but they've hidden the light, and they've kept us in darkness, and people don't realize the stars that they are. That's really what
now we worship stars outside of us, right? These big Hollywood people, Yeah,
and then when you look at the stars on the dome, like when people zoom in on them with cameras, it looks like light in
cymatics.
Cymatics and
so that's how they affect us.
There was a couple of comments here from YouTube, and one is writing that the 528 was very grounding, but another one had a cat that reacted very strongly. It woke up, jumped onto the computer to both sounds. So,
yes, I often hear that people's pets really respond. I'm teaching a course right now, and somebody made a comment that that whenever the cat hears my voice, it comes running because it wants to be subjected to the sounds. It's very interesting how animals will respond to this work. That they are touched by it and very often want to hang out and be bathed in it.
And cats are interesting too, because they've proved that just a cat's purr changes our frequency and is good for us, right? So
yeah, the Russians, they actually have like a cat purring machine to knit bones. They use it with their athletes. So here's another comment. The first tuning fork, the sound was mostly centered in the head and brain before going through my spine, like discharging old thoughts and blockages. And then the second one was much stronger in my spine and in my throat, and you can still feel it in the back. And she said,
the first one was to kind of clean out and to start the resonating process, and the second one was just to kind of brighten it and ideally instill some of the effects that we would feel who are subjected to the bells. But this is something what I just did, anybody can do with a tuning fork, or you can even try it with a bell or whatever, that you listen with the intention of, I'm going to open a portal of overtones and undertones into the ether, and I'm going to tap into that part of the record. And bring that energy into my own body with our imagination and intention, which we can do. Our imagination and intention are so powerful.
Yeah.
I've had a question about like different types of diseases and stuff, and I don't know how much we should go into that, but there was one thing about like Mercury that we have introduced. Many of us, like I have a ton of mercury in my fillings, and we know that they're using them as adjuvants, or have been using them as adjuvants in jabs. So we had the mercury in the balls on the roofs.
Yes.
What's going on? But so we had that, and now they've stuffed us full of mercury. So I would like to. What do you think about that, Campbell? Like, what is the purpose behind this?
I mean,
how
it's an amalgam they use, so I'm not sure exactly what's with the mercury that they put in fillings, but I mean, as far as they've told us it's bad, but I mean, that could just be a story, right? Because back in the 60s, we know people are still alive that you can ask that used to literally get mercury in their hands and they would play with it and stuff, and they'd get it all over themselves and no one died. So as far as we know about mercury, it just seems to be a frequency amplifier. It just seems to amplify frequency, and that's what it does. So, I mean, having that in your mouth may be an issue, right? If you're not balanced. So I don't know if that's it, but it could be what they're adding into it. I mean, we know that it's done by the system, right? They're not going to put something in there that's good for us, are they? They're going to make in there a bit of, this and that, and then whack it in and call it mercury. And then that's part of the story, right? Mercury's bad for you. It's going to kill you. So no one looks at it as far as using it for tech, because it's toxic, right? It's just like the airships, you blow up one and then no one can fly another airship. But I mean, how many plane crashes have we had? But they're still flying planes. Yeah.
But if we are looking at it as like a frequency amplifier, then it also makes sense to put it into our body so that we stay on their thought pattern frequency. Like
it might tune in.
The vibrations they're trying to put out there.
Oh, I remember, because I got all my knowledge from Donald Duck cartoons when I was.
Oh yeah. Donald Duck in Math Magic Land. That's awesome.
Yeah, but there was this. I remember this story with the Goofy got a tooth filling, and then he went on an adventure with Mickey Mouse, and then suddenly words were coming out his mouth, and then they discovered that it was like a radio antenna, so when he opened his mouth, there's someone else could speak through him.
Really? That's interesting.
But there's a lot of people that like the whack jobs back in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're all.
Oh, they froze.
They froze.
Oh no, they froze. Come back. So what do you think about mercury? Got any thoughts on that? Mercury
I've got plenty of mercury fillings in my mouth, and I never felt like I needed to get them out, and the people that I know who have mercury fillings, who decided that they were the cause of why they were experiencing low voltage and not feeling good, and then they went and got them all removed, ended up having worse health issues as a consequence of getting them removed. So, personally, I played with mercury as a kid. I found it fascinating. I remember intentionally breaking a thermometer so I could chase quicksilver around. It was such a fascinating thing to play with. And I do think that so many of the things that they tell us that are bad for us, it's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah, like the whole radium thing.
Yeah.
Radium, that's a good one.
Eileen, you may have your speaker turned up from earlier. There's like a...
Here, I'll just go back to the medium.
Yeah, it's better.
And of course, the mother of radiation was called Marie Curie, right? Mercury.
Yeah, and Cure.
Oh, wow. I never put that together.
I never did that either.
Like they tell us, but I mean, that could be a good point that maybe, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they were, using mercury that was good, and then they wanted to get it out, right? Oh, it's bad, quick, we've got to rip it all out of your mouth. Maybe that happened as well. But I don't think it's a bad thing. And
we use myrrh a lot, and that's the ocean, and we have all the piracy and things going on. So myrrh cure.
The sea
fuel from the ocean.
And Mary. So that's the same. The mother, the mère, la mère. That's the same.
Yeah. Mermen, merwomen, and then you got water, which is probably, we've theorized that water's God. Water holds memory. It can take the shape of any container. We're all contained in it. It's frequency. Water's above, water's below, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about myrrh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, la mère. So the mother is the ocean, which birthed the sun every day, right? There you have it.
Right.
La mer.
Yeah.
We're in France, so it's everywhere.
Nice.
That is interesting. I never saw that one either.
I've told you that many times.
You never listen.
No, back in Spain, I told you this whole thing.
Okay, I can't remember anything. So.
Yes, but this is what we see, right? That's the destruction of everything. So it's it's like Eileen said, whatever they tell you not to do, I'd do it. Whatever they tell you is bad for you is probably good for you. Whatever they tell you is good for you is probably bad for you. Because look at the last few years. Whoever's ruling this place doesn't care. And this is the thing. They know that frequency can clean. They know that they can clean all this mess up, right? They're not going to, destroy a world that they're going to inhabit, are they? They just want to kill us off, and then they're going to change their frequencies and they'll probably bring it all. That's their plan. It won't work, but this is the thing. In the end, everything's intention. I think we just need to go from within, figure out where we want to go, and head in that direction, and stop letting all this white noise and this fuzz and this propaganda lead us astray. Because in the last few years, everyone said, turn off your TV, don't watch it, it's all fake news. And you go on YouTube and like 90% of the channels are showing the news. Like everyone thinks that they're a truther by just showing what's on the news on YouTube. And so now everyone's getting 5 times the amount of news. And they think a lot of people think they're waking up, and it's like, no. Turn that off.
I think that there's fear porn everywhere, whether it's mainstream or alternative, or the people who are trying to, it's still everybody's in that same room. And it's not healthy. It's not a healthy place. Like in biofield tuning, we talk about the pain body and the light body. And the pain body is the part of your memories, all your traumas, all your ancestors' traumas, right? Because we've had generation after generation of trauma. Trauma responses put noise in the signal, and then that noise gets inherited. And lots of people want, someone to come along and heal them like that. But if your energy is all invested in your pain body and your trauma responses, if we take that away, you've got nothing. You don't have any sense of self, because your whole identity, you've been leading with your pain, you've been going to your doctor, you've been all about your pain body. Who are you if you're not your pain body? And so biofield tuning is really kind of a slow alchemy that finds these stuck trauma responses that are frozen in the electrical system and really alchemizes them and returns them back to the light body. And so healing is really this process of sort of dismantling the pain body, alchemizing that material, turning it into light, and building up the light body. And so that's what we want to do in healing. And that's also what Cambell is speaking to. Like, let's just go create a new world. Let's go create this world that's based on the light body, and stop feeding the pain body. Just stop it.
Yes.
And start believing in the light that is you. Your electrical system is your light body. It's not some vague spiritual thing. It's the energy that animates you is light. It's electricity. It can't die. And that is, the more we feed our own souls with stuff that is harmonizing, that is healthy, that is beautiful, right? All of this architecture is so beautiful. And so the more we create beauty in our own lives and feed that, then we're creating a world to live in. And sitting around trying to debate about what they're doing and how they're doing, it's just all like, yeah. And, you know, to be healthy, just go move towards health. If you want to walk on the beauty path, walk on the beauty path. And I know that's idealistic, right? But that's how it works, that just debating and feeding into the porn, fear porn, and the chaos and the noise and the division and all of that, that's what your experience is going to be. It's not healthy.
Where are you on the sitting with it, like sitting with the pain and all this stuff? Because I've, like, the last couple of years especially, I've had so much old shit come up, and the way through it has been sitting with it. And
that's exactly what it is. You got to feel it to heal it. It's not easy to do, and we've been so enculturated to suppress, resist, you know, get rid of the symptoms. We've all been basically told that emotions are bad, whether it's from our parents or from new age gurus, you know, from every angle. This idea that we're feeling human beings is something to like squash down or push aside, whatever. But that's our life force. Our feelings are the same way your physical touch feelings. You're like, oh, that's hot, I better not touch it. Oh, that person makes me angry because they just trespassed my boundary and they are threatening the safety and well-being of my organism, right? So our emotional feelings are the same system that are designed to keep us safe and healthy. And if we suppress or repress any of them, we're going to suppress our ability to be healthy. So it's super important that we allow the wave of an emotion to flow through us, because feelings buried alive never die. They simply stay in your system and sequester energy, right? Yeah. So we need to learn, and this is a lot of what I teach, is we need to develop a healthy relationship with our emotions and figure out how to let them flow in ways that aren't destructive to ourselves or people around us, you know? And the more we can get into a sense of flow and release the backlog of suppressed emotions, the more we enter into that state of flow. When we're holding back and judging and suppressing and all of this, we can't be in a state of flow. You know, we can't be one with nature. What does nature do? It flows constantly. And nature keeps itself healthy through flowing. So we're all full of stagnation, you know, and just to come back to the Mercury and the heavy metal thing, we're all exposed to heavy metals. Every single one of us. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the food, it's in the dyes in our clothing. Like, everybody's exposed to it. So why do some people suffer heavy metal toxicity and other people don't? And what I've discovered is that it's emotional, because the personality type that sequesters heavy metal, in my observation, almost always has a pattern of holding in anger. And if you think about it, when you get really angry, the amount of energy that you have to put to holding that in puts tension across all of the membranes in our body. And so when that lock and tension is in those membranes, it stops the body from being able to move and to process things, right? So heavy metals get stuck. So the problem isn't with the metals, it's with our inability to allow ourselves to be in a state of flow where the body will clean itself, you know, it will just keep cleaning itself. But most of what I have found that ails us is tension-based. It's just a consequence of tension. You know, there are people that say, oh, what's making you sick is toxins. Well, we're all exposed to toxins, but some people get sicker than others. And if you are in a state of emotional flow and emotional health, your body will manage the toxins. But because there's been so much trauma coming down the line, we have so many patterns of tension that inhibit and diminish us and stop us from expanding into our full potential. Like, I don't talk about raising vibration or raising consciousness, because what I've observed is it's actually an expansion that happens 360 degrees, up, down, to the side, everywhere. We're huge, and we've been compressed into this.
Yeah,
and that's want to expand back into that.
Yeah,
depressed, right? Yeah. So if
depressed,
if we are toroidal field and we go like this, and we get depressed, so the emotions, they cannot move, then when we get sick. And the anger in Chinese is energy go up. I can't remember the words for it, but or heat goes up, right? So heat goes up. And when you're happy too, you feel lighter, you go upwards. So that's a moving of the emotions, but the depression, the traumatization, traumatizing.
I think.
I can't remember. It's heat go up. I can't.
It's like expel fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it does.
Yeah. So we need that to because we're batteries, right? To make the energy go around.
That's right.
So that makes perfectly sense. And what you said with the pain body, many years ago I was in an abusive relationship, and it took me, or I was in it for a couple of years, and afterwards I didn't know who I was, because I needed him to define me. Because he had been defining me all the time. Every time I said something, it was wrong. It was like he was telling me I was lying. I was telling nonsense, right? So I couldn't trust myself. I needed him to define me all the time. So when that relationship ended, I didn't know who I was. And it took me many years to figure out, to come back and figure out who I am today.
And it's very interesting, like with like how that's holding, like we're like the watched kettle doesn't boil, like we're holding each other in a state, and these states are not necessarily beneficial to us. So like we have this whole thing going on right now of pronouns, like so people want other people to define, like put back, so they want to like keep them in that state of insanity by making them project back what they're like, the state they're in. It's
that whole thing's crazy. But I mean, that's what's going on, right? I mean, it's kind of the outside world is pretty much a representation of the turmoil, you know, inside all of us at the moment, I think. But I mean, that's also, you know, it's also the, you know, the destruction of the physical body and the creation. Like none of these people can create anymore, right? They can't like create life anymore. So that's been taken up. And so it's really like a sort of treating us as more physical, right? You just bits of bits. You can take those bits off and interchange them with other bits now, and then you can be a new person, you know? So it's leading those people more into physicality, really. Because it's your body, right? And you can, but we all know that you can cut off whatever you want. It's not going to change anything. But if you go back to the blueprint, to the frequency, then you can change whatever you want. And this is one thing. And
blueprint, because that's also what you can do. If you still have your original blueprint, because that's
well, this is I was gonna. That's why people find it so hard to change, isn't it? Because they build up these personas, and we see it so often with these professionals and experts. You know, they spend 20 years, 30 years becoming the top of their field, and they're the knowledgeable guy and they're the expert and they know everything, and they've got a lot to lose now, right? Very invested. It's very hard for these people to say, I was wrong. You know, the world I believed in isn't right. I need to change. Because one thing is they're so invested, but two, who are they without their job and their title?
Yeah.
You know, who are they?
Yeah.
But I was also thinking about this thing, like going in and changing the blueprint.
Yeah. We don't know. I think right now everyone wants to be right.
Yeah.
And maybe we should just say we don't know. We don't know.
I think,
but let's try out and see what makes people healthy and happy and work again. Let's.
But if everything, as Eileen says, is in the ether, then and everything is in that cache, then there's nothing that cannot be healed.
Well,
nothing. We can bring it back.
Why can some people smoke a pack of cigarettes a day and they'll still be sitting smoking when they're 100, and other people are dead of lung cancer at 40? Again, it's a perception that we put on that. If you're smoking a cigarette every day going, this is killing me, that's going to kill you, right? If you sit out and go, oh, I love this, I just love my time with I mean, you're probably going to lift it. It's because in the end, it's energy. It's energy. We give it the intention. It's the same thing as some people eat junk food, right? And don't put on weight. Other people, they look at a cake and, when I see a cake, I put on weight. It's because that's what they believe,
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm a big fan. I follow a path that I call moderate hedonism, a path, the pleasure path with food and substances, because whether something is medicine or poison really depends on the dosage and the time and the place and the spirit in which you take it. And there's a reason why humans are attracted to tobacco. There's humans have smoked tobacco for a long time, and
thousands of years.
I think tobacco is medicine. I think tobacco is a sacrament. I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying a cigarette. There are so many little old ladies that live to be over 100, and they are smoking cigarettes and drinking booze. What they're doing is they're managing their stress. They're able to relax. They have a sense of humor. They don't feel guilty about enjoying their brandy every day. And, this is part of the corruption of our minds, is that we've been told all of these things are bad, right? Like the eggs are bad and burnt beef is bad. I always loved charred beef. I love the burnt bits of grilled beef. All these things that they told me I wasn't supposed to have. I'm like, but I like that thing and I want that thing and I'm going to have it and I enjoy it. Right. So I think it's really important that if you want to get healthy, that you throw every single thing, even tobacco, that you just throw all that out the window and that you become a scientist, curious about what works for you and only do what you enjoy and feel good about. Like I eat cinnamon buns, I eat ice cream, I have like 3 or 4 cocktails a week. I like to sell. I like all the things that I've been told that I shouldn't. And I've learned to enjoy all those things in the right amounts, believing that they're good for me and that I love them. And I don't suffer any ill effects from them. This is the power of our minds.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't know if anyone knows your age, but this is you're looking pretty good there, Eileen. This is the thing, right? It's all intention, right? If you're happy and you're enjoying your life, then you're just that's how you're going to, it's like you can tell people that aren't happy, right? They hit 40 or 50, they can't get the frown off their face because that's who they become, and it's all this, do this, don't do that. It's such a thing. I call it like, we can't put thoughts in charge, right? This is what Eileen is finding in the energy body. She's finding charges, negative and positive charges, right? Smoking's bad for me. I'm going to charge that as bad. That's negative. Okay, put that charge in my aura field. Okay, that thing is good. And the problem when we do that is when something is charged as bad, it's always bad, right? It's like these AA, right? People who drink, go to AA, right? So they start off, alcohol's bad. We'll charge it as bad. And then they go to AA, they do all this stuff. And then what do? From then, they're an alcoholic for the rest of their life that can't drink. So that's why so many of them relapse, and they relapse massively, right? They have benders. They just lose it all because they've put it's in charge of them. That thought is now in charge of them to do with alcohol. They can't let it go. They haven't taken the middle path and gone, well, I can have a drink and that's fine. And if I drink too much, that's bad. So they're living in charge. So this is one thing I'm big on is, it's like Eileen was saying, when we judge circumstance, I think that's bad. I think judging people is probably a good idea. If someone's an asshole, you don't want to be around them. If someone's running at you with a knife, you want to judge them as someone who's trying to hurt you. But if we judge circumstance, everyone who, whatever, right, does this is bad or good, then we're stuck. That becomes something that we live our life by. And every time we hit that point, it takes over because it's in charge and it sort of takes off, right? And it creates all these blockages and things. So
yeah, absolutely. You know what? I find the word discernment useful here, because there's a difference between judgment, like I'm going to judge smoking is bad and anybody who's smoking is bad and they're unhealthy, and that's a program, that's something we've been programmed with. But then there's discernment of like, wow, this person's vibe is kind of unstable and I'm not really digging it, and I can have love and compassion for them, but I need to protect my own organism because I don't like experiencing the pain that they're giving me, so I'm going to move away. Right? Because very basic organisms move away from pain and move towards pleasure, right? That's just kind of how we're designed. So I think that, we don't want to be judgmental about people, but we can absolutely be discerning. And that's just kind of a useful differentiation between those terms that I think is more liberating.
Yeah. There's so much in the spelling that they've really got us. That's why the first thing, right? You go to school, first thing they tell you is leave your imaginary friend at the door, and then they teach you spelling. And then they tell you that your imagination is of no more use. Yeah. Just sit down and sit up straight, and I'll tell you what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And like literally, that's the first year of school.
Yeah.
It's,
So let's just do this with the whole table of what we've been taught. Clean it, and then just look at what have we got here. Is the earth flat or round? What do I experience? What do I want to eat? What do I need? Where do I want to live? Who do I want to be with?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if the earth is flat to you and it's round to someone else, that's fine. It doesn't matter. They can live on a round earth. It's not going to hurt you. It's fine.
It might spin off, but...
But, this is the thing that we're seeing at the moment is
with
everyone's so polarized, aren't they? Sorry.
2 years ago, I went to a theme park with my kids, and then someone called me, and I was like, yes, who is calling me? And it was this man I used to go to school with not 20 years ago, like maybe 30 years ago. So it's been 30 years since I saw him the last time. And I've been following him a little bit on Facebook before I left. And he was this successful commercial guy. He made commercials. But then now I looked at him and he was barefoot. He had a little son. He had grown a big beard. And it was in the middle that Denmark had just opened up from the lockdown. So we were allowed to go to the theme park again. And we were just feeling each other out. So where are you? Which side are you on? And it was awkward. But then I leaned in and I said, I think I'm a flat earther now. And he was like, me too. We are the same age. So, but because I had always felt my entire childhood that there was something off with the world that I found was true. Like with the fairy tales and everything, that I was told that it was a lie, that it didn't exist. But so I kept it inside, and now I'm like, I was right. So I'm really, really excited. There's so much new. The world is not a square box. It can be anything right now. And imagine if we're living inside a dome on a flat earth, and there's more earth outside, and there are other creatures, and there's more land inside this dome, and there's everything. Everything is possible right now. So I'm so excited, and I really, really hope that we will know where we are before I die.
We, one of our friends,
and when we are,
just popping in here. Our friends, they met an elderly lady, and she had been taught in school, like I think it was back in Denmark in the 30s, that the Earth was flat. So this whole thing about it being in the 1500s, they got away from all that.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not true. And they're like
it's in the 1959 Britannica encyclopedias.
Yeah, where they describe the dome as well. Like they, and so
well,
and it's in almost all religious texts that have any age are describing a dome, like and a tree or a mountain in the center. Whole things. Like, why would they all separately describe the same thing. And if they have all been apart from each other, it's like if there wasn't some common way of communicating, like through the ether, how could they all describe the same things? How could they all build the same buildings? Like you're from Australia, like the buildings in Australia.
Exactly the same.
That are supposed to be built by slave laborers in a place with no quarries, with the tools, with no skilled labor for those things. It's impossible.
Yeah. It's just
it's
and the
really
story's all falling apart, which is great. It's a great time to be alive. A lot of people are sort of looking at this as a bad time, but I mean, I think it's we get to witness this, right? Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was like 15, someone said to me, "Oh, you're lucky to be born in this time. You're going to see great changes and all this." I'm like, really? But we are, right? We're seeing it. We got to see, the internet come in, right? We got to see, all this kind of wireless technology come in, all this stuff. And now we get to see the whole world revert back to natural technology, right? Back to, the Eden it's supposed to be. So, I mean,
frequencies
all there is potential, and this is the biggest trick. When you get down to it, that's really it, right? They just go, no, you don't have potential. And if we believe them, then we don't.
Yeah, and that again is an electrical word, like potential.
Potential.
There's so many electrical words, like you were saying before, in charge, potential.
Yeah, the money,
currency,
like current.
Currency, banks for water, elect, like L is God, and we go and elect people at the polling booth between the polls, all this into power.
In Danish, when you go, you give when you go to elect someone, it's a choice, and you put your voice in an urn, like the way you're voting in Denmark is called it's stemme, which is also like a tuning fork. Yeah. It's your voice. You put in the box is called an urn. So
which is where you put dead people
in an urn. Like how more blatantly obvious can it be?
Yeah. And look at work. Everyone goes to a work week, and at the end they're weakened, and then they work for 40 years, and they're tired, and at the end they get to retire.
Yeah.
Come on. It's like
we're gonna do another one.
We want to talk to Lorenzo about your mate about works, because there's so much to discover in this field as well.
It is.
There's so much.
We've been going for almost 2 hours now, I think. And
yes,
see,
about now 50.
Lou, that's her name. It means a small flame.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we watched Sonic Sunday the other day with Eileen. You have that on YouTube, your YouTube channel, so people can go free and get a little treatment there, a collective treatment. And we watched that, and Lou just recognized you. She was like, "That's the lady with the right? Kan du huske hvad hun hedder?
It's a folk lady.
So Eileen, there was one question, it was like very specifically about like how do you clear the body of different things like Epstein-Barr and Lyme and things like that. That's
a great question. Well, the body is self-healing. Okay, I don't clear the body of these things. I support the body in clearing itself. So what we call viruses, right? And I have a number of friends who say there is no such thing as a virus, who also happen to think the Earth is flat. It's so interesting to me. All of my friends who are very diligent researchers and critical thinkers have come to the flat earth conclusion, and I find that very interesting. I'm one of those people that I don't believe something unless I see it. I want to know it before I say I believe anything. But I am finding it very intriguing that all of these intelligent people that I respect are coming to this conclusion. But it's definitely one of those things that people want to attack you for in a very vicious way. They've been so programmed towards vicious attack towards the flat earthers. But also, you know, this whole idea that we have a biofield has also been debated and attacked. And I think it's so silly, because if we can admit that there's electricity in the body, then there's definitely a magnetic field, and there's really nothing to argue about here. But what things like what we call Lyme or mono or anything that's viral, the signal of that shows up in the electrical system as fuzzy. It's just, it's really chaotic. So what this is that it's a pocket of chaos in the system that the body can't get on top of and correct. It just doesn't have enough juice. It doesn't have the right inputs. And so the solution to anything that ails us is to relax the tension, to increase the voltage flowing through us, and to clarify the signal. And then the body fixes itself. So when I come in with the tuning forks, it's kind of like jump starting a low battery. They're like, your battery's too low to just solve that problem. You know, if you don't, oops, they disappeared.
We lost them. Are we still live? I think we're still live and recording. Keep going.
Yeah, we are still live. Is it up in the corner? Well, hopefully they come back. But I'll just keep answering this question anyway. Yeah. That once we get, there you are, coming back down. There you are. Hello. You guys are muted.
Muted, yeah.
Yeah.
French internet.
So I was just explaining how this works. Is you know, let's just do this right now. So imagine that your body has a battery meter, right? On a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being you're topped off, you're fully charged, you feel great, your house is clean, your car is clean, your laundry's done, like you are on top of your game, right? That's 100, and you feel fantastic and juicy. Whereas, you know, 1 is you're just about dead. So in that scale, where does your battery meter fall? Like, where are you landing at, right? Campbell, I hope you're a little higher than the last time I asked you. You look like you.
Yeah, I am. I'm getting there. I am good.
Good. So, you know, think about this. So if you have a company and you have 100 employees and only 60 of them, like let's say your battery meter comes in at 60, a lot of people report in the like 60 to 85 zone. But if you've only got 60 people coming into work every day, you're not getting stuff. Like things are not getting done. Orders are not getting filled. Things are not getting built. Like everything's kind of falling behind and kind of falling apart. And the people that are there are stressed, right? So when your battery meter goes up, when you understand that you have an electrical system and that health is really a process of feeding your electrical system, right? The care and feeding of the electrical juice that's running through you, and you start getting that meter up, then your body will just get rid of that chaos. It'll bring it to order. It will solve the problem, right? So all of these things, these labels like Lyme and this and that, it's all low battery. It's all low voltage. It's all noise in the signal. And you can call it whatever you want. But what it is you not taking care of your electric health, you holding back your emotions, you not speaking truth, you saying yes when you mean no, you waking up with an alarm every day, even though you're tired, you know, you putting up and shutting up when your spouse is being a jerk, like all of these things, you holding back your own aliveness is what creates these kinds of low voltage conditions. So I can help, but all I'm doing is training you to keep your juice running and up. That's your responsibility.
So we are, I just got the word, we're damning ourselves, like damn and damn.
Ah, damn, yes. Nice.
Very good. That's what it is. We're all full of all these dams, right? I'm not gonna, I just discovered that I have had this knot in my left shoulder forever. And I just made the discovery that part of it is coming from holding back worry, because my mom was a worrier and I hated seeing her worry. And I thought it was really dumb to worry. And so what I've been doing is judging and suppressing the natural human tendency to worry now and again in my own body. Right. And you think, oh, maybe that's a good thing, but it's not, because we judge things like rage or anger or anything or worry. We're holding it back. We are damning ourselves and we are getting that current to drop because of the flow that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Middle path.
Yeah, middle path.
A couple of years ago, I got bit by a tick on my shoulder, and so I couldn't see it here.
And she's mortified of limes.
And stuff and other stuff. So he discovered it when it was quite big, and then he removed it. But I don't know if you got it out in 2 parts or something like that.
Sorry.
And I was really tensed. I was like, oh my God, now I'm gonna get that bullseye rash, and I'm gonna be really sick. And what about the kids? And I'm gonna die, or paralyzed and all that stuff. So, but I think 3 weeks went by before the rash came, and then I went to the doctor, and she was like, "That is beautiful. Can I take a picture? That's textbook." And then she got me the antibiotics, and I was asking myself, so what is it? Because I think too there's something emotionally message in whatever we are experiencing. So I asked, what is it? And I kept seeing myself in the place that I want to go, the house I want to build, and the place I want to live in, my forever home. And I was standing there going like, come. So when you say that right now, it's like, oh, so that's what I've been like repressing. There's something there telling me. That's why I got it right here. That's why it happened.
I mean, back problems of life.
Wait, say that again, Cambell?
Back problems. Everyone's got back problems, right? At the moment, no support in who they want to be.
That's the lower back usually.
Mid
That's
back.
like the lower, like the father's supporting hand on the lower back. That's usually what I get when I do treatments. That is missing when people have that thing in the. I'm just right.
Yeah.
Well, to speak to what we were talking about earlier about the pressure, right? Is that our bubbles are under pressure, and they're under time pressure, they're under money pressure, they're under the world is ending pressure, the climate change pressure, pressure of self-loathing that we've all been programmed into. And so that pressure is literal, and it makes us do what I call come out sideways. So it might make your back go out, like your spine come out sideways, or you start to express these sort of ugly parts of yourself because you're under pressure. So I would say a big part of people's back problems is being under pressure and unsupported, because that's what the controllers are doing to us, right? And so you have to have that upgoing energy, but then we've been told, especially as women, it's not okay to be angry. So we suppress all that fire and that energy and that aliveness that could counteract that pressure. And the back is where it shows up in so many people. The antenna, our antennas get broken.
Yeah.
We're no longer inspired.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no like, oh, that's so many. Oh, there's
the spire within. Yeah, our antennas.
So it's not just inspiration with spirit. So the spire, so to draw in spirit.
That's what the Lewis, the Frank was saying. With the only thing you need to fix a person is, or a man or a woman, is that to get the signal straight in, and so he will fix the spine, and everything else will correct itself. A lot of people I know who really understand health, so the integrity of the skeletal system is the most important thing. And if you aren't skeletally in alignment, then it's very hard to fix anything, because the body is constantly having to work to adjust, right? And then you aren't a clear antenna. You aren't receiving the signals even of your own field. The intelligence of nature, the larger expanded biofields all come in. And just one other thought, I know we're getting towards our end here, but
the free energy in the air. So this is kind of an interesting thing. We've been taught to look at oxygen as a gas, right? In this world that has no fire or electricity. But oxygen has what is called to be free electrons, although there's certainly people who say electrons don't exist. But let's just say oxygen has electric charge that's bioavailable. And when we breathe in oxygen, it's that our blood becomes brighter, right? It goes from being dark red to bright red, which means it has more light in it. So we are actually breathing in electrical juice. And that is most of what keeps us alive, because we can go for weeks without food.
And when we do the fire breathing, like we get lightheaded. Sorry.
Yeah, when you're breathing in light.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So we are running on the free energy that's in the plasma air that we breathe all the time.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's why the ether can't exist, right? Because they can't admit that. Because if they tell us that, then we're powerful, and then they are longer.
So we're running on free energy, and that's why they want to charge us for.
They want to charge us for.
Yeah, they want to charge with everything, right?
Everything we need is right there.
They're charging us 50% on everything.
Yeah.
Oh, the bastards.
That's a good point, right? They do. They charge us. They take the charge away.
Yeah,
But that's like we have to the whole thing we have to withdraw, because the whole thing is just gonna collapse by
then we're
itself.
gonna collapse the circuit board where we're just the energy dots going around. So if we just pull out of that, the machine doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all about forgetting or remembering who we are, right? It's like one of my favorite quotes is, the statue's not finished when there's nothing more to add. The statue's finished when there's nothing more to take away.
Yeah.
So this is us forgetting all the programming, all the crap that people have told us, and remembering who we really are. And that's really all we need to do, is understand that it's all a lie. And that's where the problem is. People have such a problem because they've committed to this life for so much, and their persona's based on it, their life's based on it, their career's based on it. It's a lot to give up, and plus you've got to admit you were wrong.
Yeah.
So but that's really where we've got to go. We've got to understand it's all someone else's opinion is what it is.
Yeah.
Someone else's opinion of how we should live. How do they know what's best for us?
Yeah.
Clearly they don't. Look around.
I love this. Lucky me to get to experience a conversation with the two of you. Oh my, that is amazing.
So
thank you for having us.
before we completely round off, Eileen, you have biofieldtuning.com, and we can buy your tuning forks via biofieldtuningstore.com. Should put that link in your link tree, by the way.
And the map of the biofield.
The map of the biofield.
I want to become a student now.
Yeah, we really want that. But do you, for us who are not in for us who are not in the US, there's like, are there other ways of getting that without? Can you make a shop in Europe or?
That's the plan. The plan is to for next year to have distribution hubs probably in the UK. In Canada and in Australia, because in the last few years, the cost of shipping has gone up so much. What we had to do with our store is we were just charging people shipping, but then when the package arrived, it was getting charged customs and additional fees. And then people would be like, wasn't expecting this and can't afford it. So they would refuse it or send it back. So we had to change our shipping so that it includes all those fees for people, which is expensive. I mean, it just is. And there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
And order from most places in the world, from biofieldtuningstore.com. My tuning forks are very high quality. You can get cheaper things on Amazon. Like I have a friend who's a mechanic, and he's like, I don't buy my tools at Walmart. Like I get the good ones, the Snap-on tools or whatever, because I know they're going to last. And so you can go find something cheap at Amazon, but it's not going to be a sound healing tool. It's not going to, I actually bought a 432 hertz fork because I don't make them off of Amazon, and I got it. I struck it twice and threw it in the garbage because it was just ugh. Whereas my forks are, you know, I created a custom alloy that took almost 2 years to concoct with my manufacturer. My forks really ring clear and loud and bright and strong and true, and they last. So it's an investment. You know, if you're serious about wanting to expose yourself to good, clear, coherent sound for the health benefits of that, or for tapping into the bells, it's better to get good quality ones. So I
But it's
apologize
also
that
they come out of tune. They come out of tune and they get polluted, or like they get sort of tainted with our energy if it's not like a good quality tuning fork. So you'll probably end up saving money if you buy Eileen's.
Yeah. My experience was the old alloys and the other forks would just kind of break down over time, especially with biofield tuning because they get into so much distortion. But these last for a good long time, and they stay in integrity.
Yeah.
So
cool.
yeah.
Campbell, do you have any offerings?
Not at the moment. Well, all we've got at the moment is a live event coming up for everyone in Australia. Just tartariaaustralia.com. If you go there, you'll find a link to the tickets, and we're just doing a live 8-hour event, so you can come and see me and Kelly Jones and JCK talking about all this kind of stuff. It's all basically how do we go forward and create this new earth that everyone's talking about, right? It's time to get off our butts and start doing it, right, rather than sitting there and talking about it.
Send me all those links, both of you, and then I will send out with an email to people who have been signed up for this thing.
Awesome.
I'm really happy to hear you say that, Campbell, because I'm feeling that same energy too. It's like all of a sudden there's this movement of like, okay, well, we've been learning and we've been putting all these pieces together. So now we need to take action. And what does that action look like? Like I'm getting involved in recording some healing music. And then we were kind of talking about, well, like, why don't we create our label? Why don't we create our radio? Like, why are we not doing this? Why are we letting them dominate all of this? If enough of us get together with enough intention, we can make an impression and do things, right? So it's neat to see this evolving from like information gathering and realizing and sort of it dawning to people coming together and taking action together. And that's what's starting to happen. And that is very cool.
Great, totally.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you, for being and your time today and all the stuff you're putting out there and helping us,
so important.
helping us all rediscover. I mean, it is, I can't tell how important it is. Like none of us really can, but it's you can feel it. So thank you, both of you, from the bottom of our hearts.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us. Hang out with Campbell, and great to meet you guys.
Thanks, Eileen.